since day one.
Do you see any way to convince the people in Washington that the money that they're so happily spending isn't theirs, it was ours first?
Well, one thing I'm going to do is the time that I have on the floor of the House, I'm not going to talk about the basketball game that I just played or any of the other stuff that our current representative has done or talked about. I'm going to stand up and talk about those kind of things. And I'm not saying he's ever done that, but quite frankly, over this past year, I've heard about the football game he's played, the basketball game he's played with the president and all those things. How about standing up on the floor of Congress and start talking about we can't continue to spend money that's not ours.
Because the interesting thing about it is every dollar we send to Washington goes through a whole bunch of hands, every single one of which is being paid out of that dollar before the dollar comes back into the district at maybe 25 cents because the rest of it ended up in salaries and whatever, and not what we sent it to Washington to do.
I got to tell you that what we're spending right now in Washington is pretty much, what we're giving to Washington is pretty much being spent in Washington. That's why we're running the deficits we're running. So I agree with you.
Jim, do you subscribe to this? I guess this is a concept that just about everything is in Washington today, but North Dakota sends their money, Ohio sends their money, and neither one of them gets what they thought they were spending their money on. And what it is part of it is going to finance a bloated government. But the other thing is the money comes back into earmarks into special interests and not to the general welfare of each particular state. You believe that money should stay in states?
Well, first off, I believe that the federal government, the number one goal of the federal government is to protect our freedoms, and we need to be, and that's what they're there for. I'm not sure if we need to have money coming in, going back, and tracking it all around. I'm not a believer in earmarks. I have said this in the past. I do believe the only time I would defend an earmark is if it would be for the military, and it would be for the vital interests of our soldiers, and at the same time produce jobs within the district. It would have to have those three pieces to it. But quite frankly, we need to get our costs down. We need to get our spending down in Washington. And we just need to get it down to it's a level of where, let's get back to that 20% of GDP. Let's get there. Because once we get there, we're at least starting to get to a place where we need to be.
Mr. Renacci, I heard from the opposition in some of their ads that you evaded paying your taxes. Can you please clarify us on this?
Sure. You know, it's kind of an interesting ad. And it wasn't just me, by the way. There was a couple thousand business owners in the state of Ohio. Let me first tell you that I've paid 100% of every tax I've owed. Now, appealing a tax, appealing a retroactive tax, appears to be, in their definition, not paying your taxes. But what I can tell you, folks, is that in 2000, the state tax commissioner, and that was a state tax issue, state tax commissioner decided to implement a retroactive tax. He didn't go all the way back to 1995. He went back to December 31st, 1999. It was still retroactive. Myself and over 1,000 business owners said this isn't right. State tax commissioner doesn't have that authority. So it just wasn't Jim Renacci. And what we did, you have two choices. You can pay and file, or you can disclose, not pay, and fight. All right? Almost 2,000 business owners in the state of Ohio filed their tax returns the way they had, 1996, 97, 98, 99, 2000. Disclosed everything, which I did. My state tax returns are available. Not like, they actually had a box on the state tax return that said, are you an ESPT trust? Because he retroactively, tax commissioner changed it. I disclosed it. And not only on there did you disclose it, you had to put who owned the trust. A new line item. So I put my name and address down. 100% disclosed everything. The problem is that all went to those returns went to the state and federal government. I paid my federal taxes as I had done all these years. Didn't hide a thing. That little check mark was what caused the audit, which was okay. Because you know what? I wasn't going to hide anything. I wanted to disclose everything. But I wanted to make sure that the state knew that I wasn't going to just give in and pay a retroactive tax. We fought it, myself and over 1,000 business owners, and we lost. And it wasn't a unanimous decision either by the Supreme Court. I mean, I wish I could have got the 2 dissenting judges to convince one more of the judges, because we lost, and I paid all my taxes, and I paid penalties and interest with it. Now, I will tell you, if that's considered hiding your income or not filing your tax returns, I would do it again today. I would do it again a month from now, and I would do it for you in Congress. I'll fight for you. That's where you get the half-truths. And we can go on and on about some more of those half-truths, but I appreciate you asking that question, because there's not a day that doesn't go by that somebody doesn't walk up and say, hey, I got this thing, or I saw this, that you didn't pay your taxes. Well, you know what? I've paid every tax I've ever owed since the day I became a taxpayer until the day I die. I will continue to do that. But just remember that if you're talking to anybody, you're always allowed to appeal it.
And that shows the nonsense of our country. What is the idea of coming up with a tax change that goes back 10 or 20 years? Who knows what they're going to do when something happens? They get taxed the fact you got 20 bookshelves in your house. This is just the beginning of a means to extract money out of people when they see them in money. And it's another way to restrict freedoms of people, unbeknownst to them that they've already lived 5 or 10 years.
Well, I will tell you this, there's some talk, you have an estate tax that is, you have a 0 estate tax in this year, 2010. So anybody that passed away pays 0 estate tax. There is some talk that people want to, in Washington, want to retroactively change that back to January. If you know of anybody that has that issue and they want somebody to fight with them, you have them call me. You got lots of questions.
Okay, yeah, oh yes. I am a constant writer to people on the hill. Asked my husband, he said, you're still on the internet? Yes. All right, my question this time is about term limits. How do you feel about that? I feel, and I think other voters feel, there should be, quote, no lifers up on the hill. That their seat is not there forever until they die.
Sure. Here's my opinion on term limits. We have term limits in the state of Ohio. It's probably the worst thing we've ever done. I voted for it. I voted for it. Bad idea. And here's why it's a bad idea. What you have in Ohio right now is you have legislators. Who is the strongest party in the state of Ohio? Not your elected official, but the bureaucrats. The lobbyists and the bureaucrats. The bureaucrats especially. The bureaucrats make all the decisions. Because you know what they say to the senator or the person in the House? Well, you're going to be gone anyway. All right? I think you control term limits. I think you have the ability to term limit John Bocherry to 2 years, and you need to do that. All right? If you have a legislator that's doing a good job in representing you, then I think you want to have the right to keep him there with you. Now, I will tell you this, because I've had people say to me, well, Jim Renacci, are you going to agree to a term limit? Look, I don't plan on being there for my whole life. I'm going down there to make a difference. And quite frankly, I'm 51 years old. All right? If I've got to spend 10 years down there making a difference, I'll do that. But at some point in time, I think it's time to let somebody else do it too. But that's my personal opinion on that. By the way, that doesn't mean I would quit at 10 years. If I thought there was an issue, I don't want anybody to walk out here and say, well, Jim said he would only quit. You know what? I'm going to do what I have to do to be able to represent you. And if on the 10th year you want me back, I would go back to, but right around 10 years, puts them at 61, I'm gonna start thinking about it. You have a question?
What do you think about all of the excessive travel out of Washington D.C., starting with the president and on down? It just seems like a lot of our money is being spent, daily trips, $1 billion trips,
Sure.
every day. Is there any way that Congress can control what is spent on this?
The answer is Congress can control spending. And I would tell you that if Jim Renacci had control of the federal government 100%, just like I did the car dealership, I'd stop the donuts too. And what that means is that you know what, the president, in my opinion, should only be flying on when it comes down to national security and the needs of representing our country. He shouldn't be flying around spending $100,000 trips, because I think every time he takes off, it's about $100,000. He should only be doing that when it's necessary.
So you won't have a private plane going on?
No, I won't.
Jim, what do you feel about congressional oversight of the EPA?
What's the question? I'm sorry.
What do you feel about having more congressional oversight on the EPA?
Well, I think your elected officials should have oversight on every bureaucratic department in Washington. So, absolutely. They shouldn't be out there doing what they want. They should be doing what the will of the people is.
California is on the verge of bankruptcy. For there, what role should the federal government, if anything, play in that? And issues with states and financials?
I don't think the federal government should be bailing anybody out. Pretty soon. The federal government's going to have to bail itself out pretty soon if we don't cut our spending at the federal level.
Speaking of will of the people, Congress, basically the majority of the time, it seems to advocate their responsibility to the administration and the czars. How do you get that back? How do you stop this overweight that's in the executive branch and the people taking away a lot of power from the congressional legislative branch?
Well, let's face it, the Congress does vote on a budget. We need to put a budget in place. We need to put the statutory spending in place, and then you need to tell the president, here's your budget. And we need to, look, it's the same as running a business. I mean, it is so easy for me. It's not difficult to comprehend. That's what I tell everybody. If you're going to send somebody to Washington, send somebody who's balanced the budget. You know, I took over the city of Wadsworth. I didn't sit there and say, well, let's spend some more money. I said, let's figure out where we're going to cut. But let's figure out where we're going to cut and not ruin services. Let's figure out where we're going to cut excess costs. Let's figure out what we're going to do to get this budget balance. It's the same thing we need to do in the federal government, just a bigger picture.
You're a businessman. You already have more business experience than the president. Then you know that when you have a balancing of a budget, that you don't always just cut costs, but you increase income. How can we work with the trade deficit to fix part of that?
Well, the truth of it is, how you do that, you get more business in the United States. You start all the way back to corporate taxes. We got to become more competitive. We got to become more competitive here with a reduction of our corporate tax rate. We have to become more competitive here by getting government away and out of our businesses, so that we don't have healthcare costs that are increasing by 60%. So we don't have cap and trade potential costs. At some point, one study said that the cost to a business would be close to 25 to 30% in energy costs if cap and trade passes. These are all things that are stopping us from being able to have more American businesses stay right here. And ultimately, once we're able to do that, we'll employ more people, we'll become more competitive. It's a pretty simple answer.